Hey guys, Jay Hoyt here. Before we get into today's video, of course, as always, I tell you guys at the start of these videos, the vast majority of you guys are not subscribed. I mean the vast majority. So if you enjoy my content, you like what you're seeing, you want to see more, make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, turn those post notifications so you never miss an upload, and don't forget, you can always change your mind later. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to Call of Duty Vanguard. We're back here on Das Haus, and we have a great gameplay for you in the background. But of course, as I try to do at the start of all of the CDL content and the year and everything, we try to go over some preseason. In this one, we're not doing rankings just yet. We're just kind of going over what's changed. So in this one, we're going to be starting with two of our teams that did not change at all, right? These teams did exactly the same, and we're going to recap what they did last year and what our predictions are going to be for this upcoming season. So here we are. Of course, let's start with our world champions, Atlanta FaZe. So these guys, absolute dominant, right? These two, like this team, this core four, this dominant team, I don't know what else you want to describe them as, but Atlanta FaZe did not miss a beat almost the entire year. So if you take a quick look, so let's start with their placings. FaZe got first in their group in Stage 1. They also won the Stage 1 major. Going to Stage 2, they get first in their group again. Then they get second at the major. So not bad start. Stage 3, second in the group, wins the major. Stage 4 comes along, first in their groups, first at the major. They win the major, of course. Stage 5, second in their groups, and their only fluke throughout their entire year, they get 7th, 8th at the major. Then going into champs, they win champs. So barely placing outside the top 3 in their groups or in the major with the exception of one time. That's pretty damn good if you ask me. So obviously domination through the entire year. Like these guys, like what else to say? Like they were just absolutely the best team all year long. No questions about it. So, you know, what I'm looking for this team, can they stay at the top, right? Can they continue on? Because usually in Call of Duty history, now I don't say this all the time, but usually once a team wins champs, things start going downhill after that. I don't know what it is, but every other team, usually that's what they do, right? Every other team usually falls off, or they break up, or someone wants to move on, or play with certain people, or whatever it may be. Usually the team breaks up. However, this team, if they can stay together, work together well, and they're still dominating, and as long as there's no internal issues, this team is built to be good for a long time. I think Alex or arcitys is the oldest one on this team at like 22 or 23, maybe 24 at the most. So this team's really good. I can't really say too much about them, but predictions for the year, obviously they're going to be a top team. Like unless they really suck at this game, they're going to be a top team, right? The amount of talent that this team has is just so undeniable that it's like, what team can stop them? You know, there might be a couple teams that we have this year that could stop them, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see how these guys are performing once Vanguard, of course, gets going and the competitive season rolls around. But predictions, they're definitely going to be a top team. I said still a team to beat, and of course, they're going to be a top 4 team pretty much all year long, like I said, unless there's some major issues in this team. But they showed they could work through adversity all year. They were the team to beat all last year. It's going to be hard to root against these guys and definitely hard to bet against them as well. So it's going to be hard to beat them, but maybe the next team will. Let's move on to arguably our second best team of last year, and that's going to be the Toronto Ultra. So I didn't mention the roster for FaZe, by the way. Obviously, Simp, cellium, arcitys. They got a plethora of coaches back there as well. So that's a team for FaZe, unchanged except for their substitute. Simp goes on to the Seattle Surge, which we'll talk about in a future video. And then they pick up Preseason from the, what team was he on last year? And Preseason coming from Seattle, I believe, if I remember correctly. Preseason joins that squad as a substitute, joins back up with his brother arcitys. So, either way, on to the next team, though. Toronto Ultra, we got Cammy, Kleenex, Bant, Insight, and Method. So all 5 of these players were in the starting roster at one point last year, and we'll get to what that meant in a second here. So let's start with, how did this season start off? Well, it was kind of rough for Toronto as they get 5th in their groups in stage 1, and they get 7th, 8th at the major. Now, I believe, if I remember correctly, in one of my videos that I made about the Toronto Ultra early on, is if this team didn't perform, I'd like to see Insight get into the lineup. Now, who it was for, I don't remember who it was, but as much as I love Methods, he's a great personality. He just kind of, like, there's always those players that are always kind of scapegoated, and it's always them that gets dropped because they're always the reason, right? Even though it could not be the reason, but it always just seems like those players get dropped first rather than some other players. So, after that, 5th in groups and 7th, 8th at the major, Methods gets dropped for Insight. Prior to stage 2, so the team of Bant, Kleenex, Cammy, and Insight go into stage 2. They get 3rd in the group, so already a better improvement. And then they win the major and beat Atlanta FaZe. So that's the only reason they got 2nd in that major, was Toronto was their time that they started to step up and they started to become a good team. So going into stage 3, can they repeat, or was this just a fluke? They get 1st in their groups and then they get 3rd at the major. Stage 4, similar story as the last one. 1st in groups, 3rd at the major. Stage 5, a heartbreaking loss in the major, but they get 2nd in their groups and 2nd at the major. One of the only 0-4 comebacks that Toronto was apart from. So Minnesota ends up winning that event 5-4 in the best of 9 at the end. And of course, at champs, they end up losing to Atlanta FaZe in the grand finals. So Toronto ends up getting 2nd place. So what did this team do last year? They started off strong, or they started off really rough, I mean. Then after that, they got much stronger. I mean, Insight, I don't know if it was just him or if it was just a collection of everything. But this team got really good, right? A lot of good young talent on this team. Cammy, Kleenex, and Insight, all very young players, all recently made their debuts in the league. Of course, they have the veteran Bant in there as well, and he's kind of holding it down in that leadership role and helping out with the squad. But a really good team after the roster change. No disrespect towards Methods, but this team just didn't have it with Methods, and whatever it was after they dropped him and picked up Insight, they turned into a completely different team. So him and it was either Cammy or Kleenex, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but one of them teamed on obviously on a team. What was it, the year before on Singularity, when they made some noise in the amateur or challenger scene, and obviously chemistry always helps out at the end of the day. So predictions, right? I think this all depends on how this team adapts to Vanguard, right? This team, a lot of them started playing, at least professionally, in Cold War or even in Modern Warfare. So Vanguard's going to be a different beast, right? It's Modern Warfare with World War II kind of mixed into there. And what will happen, obviously they're a great team. They got the talent, but can this team compete on Vanguard, right? It's a completely different game than Cold War. The mechanics are completely different. Everything is completely different about this game. So as long as they can adapt to this game, as long as they can perform well, as long as the teamwork's still there, I think this team, will be a good team. They're very young, but they're also very talented. So the only change these guys made as well was in the substitute role. Methods most likely not returning as a substitute as they picked up Hixie, which I don't know too much about, and he joins, and Methods is looking for obviously a new team. So he's not confirmed as a substitute. He also hasn't been confirmed that he's left Toronto, but he's kind of still there. And then of course, like I said, Hixie joins as the substitute. So predictions for these guys, they're good, right? As long as they can translate that to Vanguard and keep up the the momentum they had from last year, I think they'll be a good team. They're young, they're talented, they should be hungry to win, and they got a good coaching staff behind them as well. So if any team can compete with FaZe, it might be the same team that it was last year that ends up winning, you know, that battle and, you know, getting in there and competing with the likes of FaZe and the rest of our squads. But with all that being said, guys, that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below. Comment all of your thoughts and comments down there in that comment section. How do you think FaZe will do this year? How do you think Toronto will do this year? Let me know down in the comments down there as well. Subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell. And don't forget, you can always change your mind later. But with all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.